All right, ladies and gentlemen, back once again with another exciting episode of Two Men in Black and White. Here we go again. All right, the shutdown enters its second day. As we were saying, I don't think many people have felt it yet, but you will. Just give it time. It appears that Orange Mango Mussolini has some plans to eliminate a lot of programs and shut off the funding to these programs in blue states. Any states and cities that voted against him will now feel the maximum pain. Brock Ganeles joins me now live from the beautiful confines of the Hudson River Valley. And Brock, this is nothing but your regular for the Trumpster. It kind of tracks with his playbook. I mean, okay, the government is shut down. Let's start hurting people in blue states. And we're the ones who are keeping the government closed. But let's hurt the people in the blue states anyway.
Yeah, Mark, we started this back in these conversations back, I think in January, February, right? Mostly to blow off some steam for a couple of days. And then you posted them and said, let's start doing this. And then it kind of evolved into hey, let's have a conversation between a black guy and a white guy, two old friends who live different lives and live in different places of the country now, but have a lifelong connection. And let's just kind of lay out what the events that are going on in America and try to look at them between the different lenses, right? How they affect black people, how they affect white people, how we both maybe our groups of friends and our social circles are looking at different things. And I got to think, if I'm waking up as a black man in America today, I would be so fucking enraged. Enraged to think that the government can find the money during a shutdown, can find the money to send $20 billion to Argentina because their wacko leader is running their economy in the ground, even though they're selling soybeans to China. And now, after weeks of crying on TikTok and at, town halls and all this other shit where we were laughing yesterday that no one was listening to the cries of the white farmers in rural America, a lot of chatter today that there's going to be yet another farm bailout to these white MAGA, gun-loving, pseudo-Christian Americans, right, who just happen to get hurt by a shitty economic policy called tariffs. Right. And then we're gonna find money to bail out this entire white rural America economy. Yeah. Yet there's no money to subsidize the ACA and help people of color or poor people and people of color, and that oversects a lot, on their health care. And now, while we're in the downturn, Trump's now going to turn his attention to how can we fuck over the blue states, the blue voting states, which also the more diverse states in America, right? Yeah. Let's face it, urban centers. And we're going to screw over those regions now in a sweeping way and target them. So, as a white guy, I don't think I'm going to necessarily be affected by any of these things we just talked about. I'm not going to lose my health care. I'm not on the ACA. I'm not in farming.
Right.
I wasn't in farming, right? And I'm not poor, right? I'm a white guy. I'm middle class and up, which is a lot of white people in America.
Yep.
So, but goddamn would I be pissed if I was a black person. So, is that how you woke up today? Or how do you deal with it?
I woke up thinking about it because immediately, first of all, he's already going to use urban centers as target practice for the military. It's like the Fourth Reich is here, right? Because basically they're conditioning our, most lethal military in the world, right, to not see its friends, family, and neighbors as friends, family, and neighbors. He wants us to see them as enemies. He wants his soldiers to see them as enemies, the enemies within. And okay, that's not hard to do when you're targeting black people, with a bunch of MAGA white soldiers. I can see that happening, right? So I'm already pissed off about that. Now you're going to start yanking even more funds from the poor. You're going to cut off infrastructure projects. They won't cut off, the state of Georgia infrastructure projects, but they will hammer the city of Atlanta, city of Savannah, city of Albany, Columbus, Macon, urban centers that didn't go Trump's way, right? So, we're going to feel it. Then they're going to cut off programs like free lunches again. They're going to hit you wherever they can hit black and brown people. They won't go after, Dallas proper, but they will go after some of those smaller Latino counties, high Latino population counties down by the border, down in southeast Texas. Those will be the places that are targeted. Because again, it's all about the racism, it's all about the brutality. Trump is meeting with the architect of Project 2025 while the shutdown is in full effect to find out how we can most effectively cripple, these black and brown communities, the other communities. You're right, I did wake up furious, knowing that there's no one to turn to for help. That's the most frustrating part, right? We saw some people out on the Hill today, but, it was not, the answer yet, right? Because if they fold due to this pressure, we're all screwed. And it's going to bankrupt American families. Millions of families are going to lose health care. Millions of families are going to end up, just destitute.
Yeah, people are going to be dying. Folding is actually not even an option for the Democrats right now. The rank and file won't even let them. Like, they can't even, like, Chuck Schumer and Jeffries, they wouldn't even be able to go home if they fold. Like, their own would come after them. So they really actually can't fold. But as you were speaking, got me to thinking, we have this we just have to start talking about this as a white supremacy movement. Right. All the time, and just labeling it what it is, because this is like white supremacy economic policy, right? It's basically targeting black and brown communities on an economic basis, as well, and sweeping in just white people that voted against them, right? But they won't feel it right away. And when you're talking about like these Gestapo, like MAGA, Proud Boys, militias,
right?
Like, the enemy within. They're not looking for an enemy that's wearing, like in war, you might be looking for an enemy in a different uniform, right? And that's how you know who the opponent is. But really, the different uniform is the skin color. Yeah, they're just going to go after black and brown. That's the obvious people to go after. It's a little trickier to go after the white people because you'd almost have to stop them and say, hey, are you a MAGA or are you,
right.
Are you a libtard, right? And then they can decide. Yeah. What's that?
A libtard lunatic. Yeah. What are you, Brock? It's lunacy at its finest. And to listen to these people try to justify and try to, both sides. Did you hear Magic Mike talking about how, on a hot mic, after he was approached by Marilyn Dean, Marilyn Dean said you had to have heard that speech and realize how unhinged this man is and how unwell he is. And basically, Magic Mike agreed, but then he said, well, you guys got crazy people on your side. What are you talking about, nut job? Right? What's crazy about trying to keep healthcare affordable for millions of Americans?
But even if there is crazy people on the other side, they're not sitting in the most powerful seat in the world, right? So like they maybe have like a job, but they're not running shit. They're not the commander in chief giving a demented lunatic speech to his generals about the enemy within, right. Which at least some ex-military leaders came out and said that's just an unlawful order is what he's giving. So
Brock and those lunatics on the left did not send 3,000 people to the Capitol on January 6th. They didn't get convicted of 34 felonies. They didn't send military troops into our cities. They didn't get credibly accused of sexual assault. Their names, well, we don't know, but many of them are probably not in the Epstein files. But we don't know because we can't get to it because we'd rather shut down the government through millions of federal workers and make their lives even more difficult.
And they're not taking tens to hundreds of $millions in basically flat out bribes to either pardon people and or give, corporate favors, right? They're not even in position to have the influence to make it worth anyone to bribe them that way. But the person that is in this seat that's worth bribing, because the payoff is big, is the president of the United States, because he can pardon anyone he wants, can commute any sentence he wants. So he has all these, crypto criminals and others just waltzing and walking free for a paycheck.
Absolutely.
And he's got corporate America coming and bending the knee and writing checks like CBS did and others and Apple did, and like just one after the other. So yeah, I mean the false equivalency is a joke, but we have a white supremacy government. I mean, this Russell Vogt, the Project 2025 guy, and oh, by the way, Trump now acknowledging that he's going to sit down with Russell Vogt and they're going to implement Project 2025, when of course in the election he knew nothing about it, right? But it's the exact blueprint that they've been rolling out since the day he was inaugurated. Vogt's a white supremacist, like period. And so every decision that gets made from the Office of Management and Budget is in essence is racial economic warfare.
Yep.
And it's just rolling out day by day, little by little. And I kind of think maybe America is starting to recognize it and wake up to it a bit. I think it's harder to say that you don't know what's going on or you don't follow politics, because like it's beyond following politics. Like this is like day-to-day life now. Like it's not something you can even shut out. It's affecting too much of people's lives, and it's really almost the only thing everyone talks about, right? The comedians talk about it, like, except for sports, which maybe we'll get to in the quick hits. Everything else is talking about the carnage that Trump's bringing on the nation in a white supremacy movement.
Right. And that's not like up for debate. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. Look at the things that he's done. Don't look at what he said. Look at what he's done. You can look at what he said. The N-word. Don't say the N-word. We're not going to say the N-word. I mean, it's not an opinion. It is a fact that this white supremacist government, is all about inflicting pain on Black and brown America, just like the ICE raids, right? Which have really just escalated because they're hiring more people. The advertisements are still running, right? With the bonuses and all this extra shit we can give you. And Brock, they can't be doing any training, right? They're giving people guns, badges, masks, vests, tell them get out there and harass Black and brown.
Well, Mark, there's a lot of money earmarked for ICE in the big, beautiful bill. So yeah, there can and will be a lot of hiring.
Exactly. I mean, and what is the end result here? Like when does that stop? How many people do you have to remove from the country to say, okay, we've smacked down the invasion? Because you're removing people who are, first of all, working honest livings, making an honest living, right? So that ain't the worst of the worst. What about the people that are in prison? I haven't heard about any buses pulling up to any prisons to deport those people.
Mark, it doesn't stop. The Gestapo in Germany didn't stop, right? They stay in their seats. Maybe the mission changes a little bit. Maybe when they run out of Latinos to, throw in concentration camps, they start targeting the next group and the next group and the next group, right? And then they just stay there as a maintenance force, right? To keep the current government in power. But I don't foresee a day where that rolls back. They're not going to be firing ICE agents. That number is not going to go down after it's gone up until there's a new, sheriff in town who decides that we're going to abolish ICE, which should be part of the Democratic platform going forward if there are ever elections. They should just be, we're abolishing ICE. It's a white supremacy Gestapo. It's un-American. I mean, that should clearly be on the list. Top 10 list of things that get done on day one. ICE is abolished. Something new could be created, but ICE is abolished.
And Brock, what they're doing has got to be unlawful because there is no due process. I mean, we've already just trampled that part of the Constitution. No one is getting their right. How many thousands, tens, millions of lawsuits should be filed based on what happened to these people?
But they're not in touch with lawyers. And, they're not going to have the capacity to do it. It's like saying, I don't know how many people in the concentration camps in Germany in 1938 had a lawsuit against Hitler, right?
Right. Right.
He didn't care. No one made it to court, right? Like there's no mechanism for those suits to go forward. I
Right.
think interestingly in Tennessee, the court upheld a ruling that the deployment of the National Guard is unlawful. Well, Trump/ICE wants to send a whole bunch of ICE agents and National Guard to Memphis.
Memphis. Right. They're already there.
Will they care that this ruling was made? I think they're not going to care. I think they're just going to do an FU and just say,
Keep rolling.
who's to enforce it? Yeah,
Right.
fuck you to the court system, as they've been doing over and over again. So the whole lawsuit thing has no teeth when you can't,
Can't
when there's
enforce
no
it.
enforcement mechanism.
U.S. Marshals, they can't do it. Right? Are they even big enough to do it? I mean, who's actually going to do? Are we going to have the Memphis police against ICE and the National Guard? Because I mean, what else would you end up with? Who else could enforce it to get these guys out of the city limits?
We hope for that. We hope for that in Chicago, and we hope for that in California. At least they were making those rules that they couldn't wear masks. We were waiting for the day when a policeman would go up to an ICE agent and arrest him for unlawful activity because he's out here with an AK and a mask on. But that never happened. Didn't happen in New York. Hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And I wouldn't bank on that ever happening, right? I don't know if the police they'd be outgunned, or maybe they agree with the ICE agents, at least a portion of them. Certainly not the black and brown ones, but the white ones probably agree.
Right.
I don't think that's our salvation. Like you said, you woke up not knowing who you can even turn to. I mean, it's on us.
Hey,
It's
Brock,
on us. We're going to have to rise up. There's going to have to be a popular uprising in America.
Well, Brock, at what point did we say, you know what, fuck this? Let's get out of here. Let's go to countries that'll pay us to come, where there is no racism. Are we the only country that was founded and purely relied on racism, as a construct for basically our pillars of existence?
Of building an economy that
Based on unpaid labor?
Yeah, that allowed the country to be wealthy enough to have the army that could fight the wars, right?
Break away. Yep.
And break away and stay away. Or War of 1812, it was one thing to win the revolution, but then to stay independent. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other countries really were built, on slave labor. I mean, there are certainly a lot of countries that employed it as a piece of their puzzle, but not a foundational piece, right? Like England was there already, Spain was there, France was there. Like they had economies. Yeah, they were colonizers. They did all kinds of shit around the world, but it wasn't like the foundational building blocks of their nation, right? So I don't know. We might be the only one.
Yeah.
I mean, even Canada. I mean, I don't know their history that well, but I don't feel like Canada built it on slavery. Like, I'm sure they did some fucked up shit to Native Americans up there as well in terms of becoming a nation. But I don't know that of their slave history. Maybe someone who's watching can fill us in on that.
So, Brock, when do we start going to countries that don't see skin color as a threat? You can go to different countries like Panama. You can go to Panama and you can see white Panamanians, brown Panamanians, dark-skinned Panamanians come in all hues, right? So you can't discriminate against a Panamanian because everybody's a Panamanian, and that's all they're concerned about. Are you from here? That's it. That's the end of the story.
It's amazing they've gotten there.
Yeah. Not you're a brown Panamanian, so I don't like you. We're the only country that does that. We're the only one. Look at the national pride around the world, right? Look at Canada refusing to spend money in the U.S. Look at the protests that we've seen all over Europe against the tyrants that are trying to make their quality of life much less appealing. They're getting 300,000-400,000 people out in the square. Ukraine, look at the Ukraine. Their men ran to the front lines in street clothes. We'll get our uniforms later. Just give us our guns. We're ready to fight for our independence.
I don't think any white people are thinking about leaving America because we have it too good here. We're too wealthy. We're too comfortable. You know, and white people feel like, hey, when shit goes too far, we can boycott Disney and cancel our subscriptions, and we can get them to turn around and fix things like the things. You know, the violence isn't targeting us yet, right? So we don't see it. You know, and white people, we all feel like this is our country. Right? It's treated us great. Like white people have phenomenal family immigration stories.
Right.
Right? We know the stories. We tell the stories. We pride ourselves. Like those are the proudest like connections that we have throughout the family is of the first of the family that came here and built it for the rest of us who've now gotten to, for the most part, really, really good, comfortable, high quality of life lives in America. So white people are, you know, we think it's ours. And we don't think, we're just not inclined in any way think of going anywhere else.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking for all white people, but I think I'm speaking for a very mainstream way of thinking.
Brock, why would you go anywhere?
Why would you? Yeah, we have it so good here.
Yeah.
Except for when there's such a worry that Trump is, you know, when's he going to get to the white people that disagree with him? You know, we know we're like last in line after he gets through black and brown people, but when does he start just going out in a totally politically motivated way where even other white people are the enemy because I voted for Kamala Harris? I'm the fucking enemy. I'm the enemy. Yeah.
James Comey.
Yeah, I stepped in and did something that, you know, was contrary to this regime, this Christo-fascist white supremacy regime. There'll be more and more of us. Right now, it's just a trickle, but there'll be more and more white people that are singled out.
John Bolton. Chris Wray, who was the election supervisor, the digital election supervisor.
Ratsberger or Krebs or Miles Turner. There's like a handful. Yeah, there's a handful. Liz Cheney, right? There's a handful that, like, you know, are threatened. I mean, Comey's the kind of, I think, the first one. I mean, a bunch have been fired. Comey's the first one that's being, like, indicted, right? So maybe that's a trial balloon. That's a trial balloon on political enemies.
Exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. But Brock, you know, I got to thinking about this because every day on my feed, TikTok, Instagram, I'm seeing videos about, you know, the documents you need to leave the United States quickly. You know, here are the countries that will pay, you know, African Americans to come. You know, there's a big annual celebration in Ghana every year where a lot of high profile African Americans go. Some of these African nations are offering incentives to move back home, right? And bring your business with you.
Bring your business, bring your money, and bring your business. I'm sure they want the wealthier, more successful black people particularly to come. You know, teach our people how to do this, build businesses, hire people, boost our economy, you know, take all that, makes sense. Like that. Look, that's what countries are doing with the scientists, right? We targeted all these, you know, international scientists that had come to the U.S. We're doing all the research here, and now other countries are cherry picking them with, you know, great inducements. Not only do they get to do the research they want to do, so they get to follow their life's passion, which was cut at the knees here, but they're getting all kinds of financial inducements to do it. You know, that's a little bit of the brain drain, right?
And their families and themselves are not going to be harassed by white supremacists, right? No one's going to be looking over your
They're certainly not going to get shot up, right? Like the CDC, their building's not going to get shot up for doing research to help people.
Right.
There's a
to help
safety.
people live better and longer lives, right? You should die for that in the United States. That's how fucked up we are as a nation. But riddle me this, Batman. You know, I'm seeing all these videos with African Americans talking about leaving the country, and you know, these are very smart people that are doing it. Some people are taking their children abroad to have them educated. You know, I've seen a variety of videos. But what happens when there's no one left to oppress, right? What happens when the number of African Americans is so small, because you've either locked them up already, killed us, or we have fled?
You go after the Jews. The Jews go first. You come after the Jews first, always, in the white people oppression game, right? The Jews, the gays, you go after the gays, right? I mean, they're already after trans, right? But
Right.
the big crackdown on LGBTQ, Jews, then there'll be another religion that would be next in line. They find another way. You just find you got to carve somebody out, right? So there's always a pecking order. We learned this from reading Lord of the Flies in maybe 6th grade, right?
Right.
Actions get formed and somebody gets othered. If somebody gets othered in a different way. Maybe it's people that are, too fat, too short, too gray.
Right. Just like the cool people at recess.
People. What's that? Yeah.
Cool people at recess. Yeah, you're not on my team. Go over there with them, with the others.
So we find a way.
Fuck. I'm just so frustrated right now. But let's get to this quick hit, because I'd like to talk about this a little bit, because it's what do you got for me, first of all? But because this one is under my crawl, we might have the same one. Go.
The fact that I'm hearing that ICE agents are now already planning to go out to the Super Bowl because Bad Bunny is going to be performing. So now we're going to at the Super Bowl with like the wealthiest people in the country go, right? For their little, that's their sandbox that they get to play in for a day. But because we have a quote foreign performer, oh, by the way, he's Puerto Rican, which is a part of America, but of course MAGA America doesn't want to acknowledge that. The ICE agents are going to be out there, looking to pick off any brown person who may be even thinking about going to the Super Bowl. And I just find it just classic asshole American.
Yeah. And Brock, who are you going to pick off? J-Lo? George Lopez? Who are you going to pick off? Ruben Gallego? Who are you going to nab? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. First of all, the fact that John Rocker is wondering why we have a foreign, performer at the Super Bowl. He doesn't even know that Puerto Rico is an American territory. Trump probably needs to get on the phone with the president of Puerto Rico and talk with him about, them just letting their citizens travel all over the place. Now, remember, Bad Bunny is the one who said, no, we're not doing any concerts in the U.S. He raised, $250 million for the Puerto Rican economy, right? Because Trump and his, white supremacists won't give any money to help make the repairs that they've never made from that horrific storm that they suffered back in his first administration. Remember the shooting of the paper towels?
Yeah, well, that could have been a big boom for the continental U.S. It would have been like the Taylor Swift, the way the Eras tour brought so much money. Bad Bunny's such a huge performer; it would have driven a lot of the economy here. But so he drove a ton of business to Puerto Rico. Kudos to him. I commend him for that. But it's kind of a shame because there's probably a lot of people that couldn't see him because they couldn't go to Puerto Rico, right? So if you're a Latino in Seattle or something, maybe you can't afford to make that trip.
Right.
Danica Patrick was out saying shit too, and even some other, just a whole bunch of MAGA goons out there. Why is someone who's not an American, singing blah 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 blah? And it's just classic MAGA.
And it's going to be every song in Spanish. Their heads are going to explode. I can't wait. Matter of fact, I'm going to start filling my timeline with Bad Bunny videos from YouTube. Just to drive MAGA fucking crazy. I mean, they're such morons. I mean, how do you not know your history, your geography, right? The pieces of the puzzle to this nation, right? And then you have the nerve, because you know what? I bet most of MAGA couldn't pass that exam you have to take to become a citizen.
Look, Puerto Ricans are already screwed, right? They don't have real representation. Right? No, like they're like citizens with no representation. So of course that should be a state, but that, Alaska's a state, Hawaii's a state, Puerto Rico's not a state. It makes no sense except for the fact that MAGA would worry that they might vote Democratic, so we can't bring them in as another state and allow a couple other senators, because that would fuck up, in essence, the unfair advantage of white America. So we see. Was that what you wanted? Was that your quick hit too? The Bad Bunny thing? You've been watching all that stuff?
Yeah, with John Rocker and Danica Patrick.
Okay, I didn't see the John Rocker. I saw
Yeah.
Danica's.
Like John Rocker, crawling out from whatever rock he's been under, one of the, most ghoulish professional athletes that we've ever known. Like, why are you talking, right? Like, why do you need to try to become relevant again? I'm sure he's spent up whatever money he made, and now he's just looking for some way to be relevant. And, the business model for racism is booming, apparently.
Yeah.
So maybe
He might have a GoFundMe up by tomorrow, right?
no doubt, no doubt. And he's pissed when he won't be allowed to, come to a major league ballpark or something, for fear. And, a lot of people think that, incidents like John Rocker was involved in when he was playing in the league, turned away a lot of minority talent. But then what you had is Major League Baseball turning, to the Caribbean and getting these, especially Dominican players, right? Every Major League Baseball franchise has a baseball school in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, it's embedded in the league. It's a huge Latino culture in baseball. In fact, there's a kind of a clash going on right now because the Los Angeles Dodgers have been really a haven for Latino fans. And it's been a real community thing out there, Dodger games and the team. But now with ICE patrolling around like the parking lots and the like, they've really kind of scared away a lot of the fans. The team has tried to support their fans, but then that gets them on the wrong side of Trump. And, literally the Dodgers are trying to walk that line to still be fan friendly, but, not get the wrath of Trump, right? Like that's the fucked up nature of America. We said somewhere along the way that sports was the only place where this shit doesn't come into play. But you know what? Of course it comes into play in sports. There's actually no element of American society where this MAGA white supremacy, Christo-fascism, authoritarian state doesn't impact. It's everywhere.
Right. And again, think about it, Brock. Think about the audience at a Super Bowl. It's all corporate GGs and friends of, right? Friends of well-to-do white people. Right? And the only brown people in the stands are the families of the players. Right? That's it. That's it. The rest of the tickets are all allocated for corporate America, the big, advertisers, their friends, their families. And oh, isn't it strange? Most, if not all, are white. Right? And that's the bottom line. So the only brown people you're going to see besides Bad Bunny and his performers are superstars. The Penelope Cruzes, the Andy Garcias, Selena Gomez might show up, right? What if Sofia Vergara shows up? On one of the most popular shows in American television lore, you're going to snatch her, right? Everything she's done for her community. And what she's done for television to help people have an entirely different view, right, of her culture. Man, please. You think about the people that are out here that, could possibly show up there and, all hell would break loose if one of the most prominent, Latino actors or actresses or athletes, right, was swept up, in some kind of ICE movement.
Alex Rodriguez out there, right? Get cuffed outside. Hey, I mean, I hate to say, but I would love it if ICE makes a mistake like that. I love when they would make a high-profile mistake that would rile people up, because it takes incidents like that break through all the noise.
No doubt.
To actually rile up America, and we talk all the time. America needs to be riled up.
Mm-hmm. Amen. All right, my brother. Great stuff today. Always a pleasure. Let's rack it up and do it again tomorrow.
All right, Mark. Good to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Have a great day.
Adios.
Amigos.